Some of you are in conditional relationships. So, a genuine relationship goes something like this. I like you, you like me. These are the things I like about you. These are the things I don't like about you. But I'm going to take both those things, both the good and the bad, because I understand that they make up who you are as a person and who it is I'm attracted to or who I want to interact with, and vice versa for the other individual. However, personally, from what I've observed, it tends to go something like this. I like you, you like me, I like these things about you, but you need to change all this other shit. And the interesting thing is, it's usually one-sided. Like, usually one person demands a change from the other person, and they consider themselves adequate in all areas of the relationship. Now, this includes and applies to all types of relationships, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a business relationship, or a sexual relationship, or if you're seeking a life partner. Now, it's not too much of a big thing when it comes to the first two categories, because you don't spend all your time with your friends, and for the most part, in a business relationship, you're usually getting paid for your compliance. However, when it comes to sexual relationships or coupled relationships, the setup seems to be that one person has set the tempo and the other person, whether it's from fear of being alone or just being afraid, they tend to just go along to get along. Now, with that being said, I will say this. There are some people who have very destructive traits or habits that do need to be checked. Maybe they like to go out on a Friday night and not come back till Tuesday afternoon. Maybe they like to take out all their emotional baggage on those around them. There are plenty other extremes. But when it comes to being in a relationship, and you're potentially going to build a life with this individual, you're going to have children, you're going to create all these wonderful memories, etc. Being the person that's responsible for fixing them, by being their part-time therapist or counsellor, I wouldn't say it's conducive to a healthy relationship. Also, there's the assumption that as the person doing the fixing, you yourself are at a mental awareness of clarity to help others become better versions of themselves. But I'm sure you'd all agree with me when I say that's not the status quo of the average person. I think if you meet somebody and you like them, but you can see that they have these destructive traits or habits, and you're not happy with putting up with them, then I think it's best to just give them a wide berth. And if you must, let them know it's because of those traits. And then if they choose to, they can then make those changes off their own back. Seek the help themselves rather than you fixing them or taking them as as some sort of project. Now, the examples I've given are more or less on the extreme end of the spectrum. Most of the time when people are trying to change other people, it's not to that extent. It's usually much smaller things that universally aren't good or bad, but they just suit the other person's needs for comfortability. Or, more likely, they just want the other person to conform to their way of doing things, so that they don't have to check any shitty traits that they may have. I think nowadays, most relationships only survive based on conditional love, which I guess has always been the case, but I don't think we've ever been quite honest about it and open about it. I think if you spoke to somebody who was in a conditional relationship, you'd hear what they tell themselves in their heads rather than what the situation actually is. I think if you spoke to the person that's calling the shots, they'd say to you they're understanding and happy and the relationship is great. I think if you spoke to the person that's having to play the role assigned to them, they too would say they're understanding and happy and the relationship is great. I'll say this. I don't think you can have mutual levels of happiness and joy as well as being completely genuine with one another. Unless, of course, you're one of those people who've managed to get to a point in life where they don't expect anything in particular from anybody. And you understand that, to some extent, everybody has some sort of skeleton in their closet, or something that they don't even admit to themselves, even when they're by themselves. Everyone, to some extent, is hiding a version of who they are away from the world. Whether that might be from a fear of being judged, or they're just not comfortable with it, or they're ashamed of it, whatever it might be. I think for the most part, we've got a part of who we are, and we're just kind of keeping that locked away for a select few people. And as I said, if you're one of those people who have got to that point where you understand that until you spend time with people, you won't really know who they are, because for the most part, they might not even know who they are themselves. And you both accept and understand that more than likely, you aren't going to agree or like other people's opinions or views about certain things, but you don't attach what they say to how you feel about them on an emotional level, because you had this assumption that people are supposed to behave a certain type of way. If you've managed to reach that level and you find somebody else has also reached that level, then yeah, maybe you might be able to have mutual happiness and a genuine relationship. But for us normal people, I'd advise putting happiness in the occasional state of mind category, because for the most part, that's really all it is. And focus on really having some form of genuine relationship, even if the genuineness is that you address the elephant in the room, that you are in a conditional relationship. It doesn't mean it's going to be great, but for the most part, if it works for all parties involved and it's out in the open for all the necessary individuals, which means for yourself and the other people involved in the relationship, then I think you can avoid this environment that breeds potential resentment and chipped shoulders.